Good morning, AV addicts. Well, sorry I've been a bit quiet recently. Lots and lots of going on at the moment with various workshop moves and other bits and pieces. Just thought I'd bring you one of my favourite subjects, as most of you will already know, but I love control columns, and particularly spade grips. And we're going to talk today about Hawker control columns and their lineage. So hopefully we'll cover the Sopwith Camel through to the Hawker Tempest. Just a quickie, but anyway, let's go fly. Okay, so if we start with these four here, what you've got here is you've got from the 30s biplanes of the Hawker Fury, Hart, and Audax and Hind and things like that on the left-hand side, and then you go through to the Hurricane, then the Typhoon, and then the Tempest. So you can actually see that these are very, very similar in basic design, and if you like, they developed it quite well, and that's what we've got. So here we've got, this is actually off a Hawker Hart, and it was made by the Armstrong Whitworth company, so it's actually got Armstrong Whitworth stamps. So what you've got is, like all of them, you've got a chain guard here, you've got this radius arm, and then you've got the spade grip sitting on the top. The 30s biplanes, particularly the Hawker ones, use this beautiful stainless steel spade grip with this covering that is very familiar to people. Used also on Dunlop grips, right the way up from this type of aircraft, right the way through to the Tornado, and it's a thermoset type plastic. What you've got, so you've got your stainless steel spade grip. These are your gun triggers, and then down there you'll see, come on, come into focus please. You'll see the triple markings of the BSA factory. So British Small Arms actually made this grip. So then what happens is you come down. So this is an Armstrong Whitworth made Hawker Hart column. Very, very rare to actually see one out of the aircraft. This is the grease nipple. You can rotate, so left, right, and it's transmitted through these tubes down to here. And then what you would have had is you would have had down at the bottom, so transmitted down to here, and then you would have had elevator probably through this bar here, and ailerons that way. So that's the Hawker Hart. So you're looking at, as I said, sort of 1930s, and up to the Fury had a similar type of grip. We then moved to the Hurricane. I know you've all seen this before, so we'll just whip through this very quickly. Gun button is now pneumatic with the safe and fire. So fire and safe. So there's a great book by Tom Neal called Gun Button to Fire. That is what he means, gun button to fire. Then you can push it. It's ideally for right-handed people. So you've got that thing there, that basically cut out there, and then you put it back into safe. Then you have the brake lever. So the brake lever, so the gun button is pneumatic, goes down here like so. Again, same sort of basic principle. Turn it left, turn it right. Goes through these rods, push rods, and then it turns this bell crank here. And then pulling back and forth, that's the elevator pickoff. So the major differences are obviously it's an aluminium spade grip, still shiny, so less heavy. It's got a brake lever obviously, which then comes down here, and then the elevator pickoff is actually halfway up the control column. We then move to the next one, which is the Typhoon. So this grip here and this part is from JR 505, which was a aircraft with, I think I worked out, it had over 40 operations. It served with 137 Squadron, did 10 ops with them, 198 Squadron. I don't know why I'm reading this to you. I could actually show it to you. Yep, it's the best part of actually 56 operations between 8th of February and 1944 and the 10th of April. So right in the thick of the war and taking back mainland Europe from the Germans. If you look up JR505, you'll find that the cockpit is still around, but I got this from Mike Cookman, who actually saved the cockpit and started the restoration, and he replaced it because it wasn't in nice condition. He had a nice original one to go on it, so I acquired it off him. Again, it's got the safe fire, so fire, safe. This time this is actually an electric gun button, so the wires then go in a channel down through here, and I've cut it all. Well, it's not on here, but basically that would then go to the system. Major differences between the Hurricane we mentioned is it's a magnesium alloy grip. The gun button, it's still silver, and then what we've got is we've got the elevator pick-off is a double lug as opposed to a single lug. Also on it, what you have is you have this tray here. The bottom of the column came from a Gloucestershire dump, and it shows the value of these things at the time because the base would have had a big lead lump in here to basically stop you over-G'ing the aircraft, overstressing the aircraft in the pitch axis. So you had a great big lump of lead. When this and probably 60 odd other control columns came out, all Typhoon and Tempest, this tray was often split because they would save the lead because it had a higher value than the scrap. Very interesting that a piece of lead that's probably worth, I don't know, £6, £7, £8 now was more valuable than a control column, but they had hundreds of them. Okay, so now we move over to the Tempest. So this is the Tempest, and by the time of the Tempest, it's cockpit green. The basic column is exactly the same, but it's that beautiful BS 381 Charlie cockpit green colour that you have. So the spade grip differences are the covering is not as neat. It's still a magnesium alloy grip. It's got a different number to the type used on the Typhoon. And then what you've got is this is the gyro gun sight. So you've got a cage button, and then you've got the camera button on this combined unit here. All this and the gun button and this came from the scrapyard, the dump dig in Gloucestershire. The spade grip didn't, because what happened is you get something called sacrificial anode. So what happens is the magnesium alloy from all the columns corroded away, leaving the gun button dangling on its electric wire cable, and this dangling on its electric cables. So, and then the rest was preserved, as it were, and didn't corrode at all. So this is a mint column or save for the spade grip. So it was weird when they came out of the dump. It basically had all the brake lever dangling off its bowling cable and things like that. So that's a quick whiz through those control columns. I do have a Hawker Hunter, which is the next step up, if you like, the first sort of jet, or one of the first jets that Hawkers did. And they retained this same basic design, but this was beefed up. This is beefed up, but the basic principles of the control column continued, even down to these funny little dog legs to pivot for pitch. Okay, what we have here is this is the Sopwith Camel spade grip here in control column. So you've got an engine bleep button, which you use to bleep the engine, timing basically. These are the gun triggers, so you can see it's quite similar to the Hawker the Hawker of the 30s. Then what you've got here is this is basically the control column, and it goes down right the way to the bottom here, where you've got the pick off for the elevator, and then for lateral controls the whole stick moves from side to side, left and right. So this is on the project little cockpit we have, so we will talk about the cockpit a lot more later, but just thought I'd show you the spay grip. So you can see the spay grips were British designs for quite a long time. When you work out that the Sopwith Camel first flew 1917, I'm thinking, and then when the Hurricane first flew in 1935, so you look at that, and that's 18 years difference. So you've got quite a big difference, if you like, in the spay grip, and from something that's very sort of stick and rudder and wood to something like the Hurricane. So things really changed really quite quickly. Okay, EV addicts, well, I've decided that we might as well finish it off with the F1 Hunter. So what we're looking at is effectively something that, so we talked about the Sopwith Camel, with about 18 years until the Hurricane first flew. Well, that was in sort of 1935, and then effectively another 15 years, and you move to the Hunter. So this is the Hunter F1 cockpit and the Hunter F1 control column. We'll have a really good, better look at the Hunter later, but you can see, as I said before, you can see that we've got a similar sort of arrangement with it rotating like so. And then if you look down, you can see base of the column, there's a boot, effectively a sort of canvas boot that covers the bottom of the control column, but everything again is now back at the base of the column. And so what you've got there is that just shows how far we've moved, if you like, from the Hurricane, Typhoon and Tempest to the Hunter. So here's the control column. What you've got here is you've got the brake lever here, you've got the brake catch. So this is obviously when it works on the ground. You do have air brakes in the air, but they're controlled differently. And then what happens is you release that, and it releases the brake lever, so you can actually brake differentially to get the aircraft to come to a halt. And then if you lift this up, down comes the gun trigger, and then you've got various buttons, and this is a pitch trim here. So you can see the big difference is you move to a fighter stick, or classic sort of single stick on the Hunter, and you've also got different design, different brakes. The basic brake system is the same as the Hurricane and the Typhoon and Tempest, where effectively you use the rudder pedals to move a differential brake valve. So if you want to brake the left wheel, you push left pedal and squeeze that on the ground, and it will rotate about the left pedal, and vice versa. So it's similar, it just shows the difference. I can't sort of talk to you about Hunter cockpits unless I talk about the smell. And to be honest, any jet cockpit, I've just opened the canopy the first time this year, so it's now March, mid-March, so we're looking at effectively, it's probably about 4 months since I last opened this canopy and the cover, and the smell is fantastic. You get it in all these 50s aircraft. It's a mixture of dope, unspeakable sweat and stuff like that, I suppose, but you've got dope, you've got rubber, you've got oils, you've got everything. So there you have it. So that's the F1 Hunter. I hope you've liked this canter through the history of control columns of Hawker related products, so Sopwith from, as I said, about 1917, 1918, right the way through to the Hurricane that first flew in November 1935, then to the Typhoon, which flew fairly closely afterwards, late 30s, probably late 30s I believe, then to the Tempest, which was one of the super aircraft, if you like, super piston aircraft, one of the fastest piston aircraft ever built. Then we were still forwards from the end of the war, we're looking at about 6-7 years, from 1945 5 years to this beautiful Hunter flying. So control columns have come a long way just in the Hawker family of jets and piston aircraft. So as I said, hope you enjoy it. Please like and subscribe if you want to, and as usual, fly safely, and mention any in the comments, anything you might want us to cover in the future. I plan on doing cockpit tours of all the cockpits in the project, as well as some guest cockpits from friends that I have in various museums and private collections that you won't normally get to see. So anyway, as I said, fly safely. See you next time. Bye.